Grateful to be here. I'm super grateful to Gabe and Sally to have me here and to just like really incredible space, and I'm very honored. So about my talk, I think normally when I do it, I try to have it more like structured conceptually, and now I sort of restructured a little bit to make it sort of more personal, because I think it's like super important and interesting how artists like grew through their experiences and like identities and things happening to them to what they are. And like yeah, it's like you should have a thing particularly weird combination of experiences to decide to become artist, because it's not like really for everyone. Yeah. And so like I wouldn't make it so my chronology of the events and stuff I'm going to be talking about would be more through like my kind of set of insights and like ideas which were coming in different times, rather than like I did this year and so on. Yeah, so I will I will start a bit with my education and like what did I, is it like, yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, so you see it's quite a long and weird list, minding that it's like all in different places and so on. So I want to talk about my first university first of all, because like it was probably the most important education I ever had, St. Petersburg State University, Department of Psychology, where I came when I was 16. And I often been asked by people like how this influenced my art and like why didn't I go study art in the beginning and so on. And honestly speaking, I didn't have an idea then that art can be a full-time profession, because like no one in my family had it as a full-time profession like ever. And also like my granddad was like a virtuoso in piano kind of, but he never took it as serious. It's like, yeah, oh shit. Sorry. Yeah, just I unlicensed that Adobe app thing. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Didn't see it. Okay, it just like I seen it. Yeah, so like and it always seen as like a side of like saving the world and like developing like cancer treatment and stuff like that. A side of it, yeah, you also can be like genius artist, but like you cannot prioritize it. So like I didn't really have an idea that one can be artist professionally then, but I was super like psychology was my very kind of thought through choice, even I was like so young. So it wasn't Soviet, it wasn't like a random, and it actually started because I read when I was 10, I read this like book called like Entertaining Psychology or something like that, like very Soviet book, but it was like super interesting about all the experiments, and I think it kind of fit in the sort of obsession I had from a very early age, that I was always curious how, first of all, how like psyche work, how we work in a world, how we like can feel or see it, but also I think I always to some extent was like really uncomfortable with the idea of like, you know, when you're a child and you find you're brought to the world, you quickly discover there are many limitations, and a part of limitations that you have to go to sleep at 10 and like all that, right? You also have limitations that like first you find out you're gonna die, and then you find out that you cannot go back to past, you cannot go to future, and you are basically nailed to the current moment. And like I didn't know it's all called like existential philosophy or something like that, but I think I felt it very strongly from the very beginning, that like when you find that you brought in the world and you're like, oh okay, I didn't sign for it for real, and everyone like, yeah, we didn't sign either, but it's how it is. And I think I was always sort of like, I don't know, curious about this idea how we can deal with the situation. And I think that initially brought me to psychology. And so this was my university, and like this green building in the middle, or like really beautiful place. And so during this education, I think I said it was like maybe my most important and most interesting education. It had really good teachers, and I really grew personally there, because I was very like kind of bullied and sad teen when I came, and like when I got out, I was already like much more confident and could speak like out my opinions and stuff like that. So it really helped me in so many ways. But also during while I was studying there, I further and further was getting deeper in like human states and emotions, and like exploring of my own states and emotions. And even if I was painting from like, I basically never stopped, like all kids are painting, but then like everyone is stopping, and I didn't. And then like but it was all like small scale and so on. And then when I was 18, I just like switched that, like, okay, I want to do something about those like emotions and like stuff I study and stuff I observe. And I'm kind of really shy to show those works, because I never show them to anyone, because I think they're really funny and like kitsch. But that's me at 18, so I will be brave and show you my stuff I did when I was 18. So, and I thought it's kind of funny to show, because like it was I didn't have any prior like proper education in painting. So, and they were relatively big, they would say like 60 to 80 or something like that. And I was like really pursuing particular states I was getting in while doing those works, that I had like very strange ideas of art, which is actually, I think, typical for people who never studied art but did it. I think my idea what as artist, like maybe in particular also grew from Hollywood, and like all this stuff that like, yeah, you know, this crazy person who is like splashing paints and all this like weird stuff, and like having all the weird romances and like all the things to develop their like super intense like practice and get in like ecstasy state. So that was my idea. And like no one there was, no one around was there like telling me, you know, that's a little kitsch. Yeah, so like I thought it's kind of I thought I'm getting my like my like images I was bringing the painting through like collective unconscious. So it was also very kind of Jungian, and I thought that's the whole point basically. Yeah, and I also thought that like obviously like when everyone who come to study psychology earlier or later gonna discover that they have some like super deep psychological problems, and I thought like I should really concentrate on them and like get deep in them, because like this gonna bring me to like better art making. And so like I was making exhibitions and stuff, even like sold some things, and like my psychology friends were coming to my shows and everything was fine, they were normally liking everything. And then I decided to study more, and I came to Kingston University here in Kingston. It was in 2012. And this was a big problem, because like when I came there, they said, you know, all this is like super kitchen shit. And I said like, why? And they, oh, how you don't understand? And it was always like, so like, I just got like really deep and like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong. So like, but at least I stopped like some of my very naive ideas were gone then, and I started exploring other mediums. And Kingston wasn't very welcoming. Generally, 2012 wasn't welcoming for painting. Kingston was particularly not welcoming for painting. And I did a year master's there, so I didn't spend there too long, but I didn't have a BA, so I wasn't really getting the context and the language and all that. But I kept doing painting, but my painting became sort of secret activity while I would be like doing video and stuff like that. And then I also returned to Russia. Then I went to study in Paris. Then again I returned to Russia, and like my practice was quite very diverse. And like if I would show someone my portfolio, people would normally saying it doesn't look like it's done by one person. So that was like a performance I did in Moscow in 2017, where I was like lying in a bath and reading teenage poetry I collected from my friends, and my own teenage poetry. I was really into like love discourse of Roland Barthes and feminism and lots of different things. And also I was a member of art collective then, and actually that was like our space where we did exhibitions. But anyway, with all that, with all my art collective, for like everyone was super against painting and treated as like, yeah, okay, you can do it, but you know, did you try to switch on your brain and all that? And like I did. So I wanted to go study somewhere where I wouldn't again hear that painting is dead, blah blah blah. And that's how I ended up in Royal College. But right before, so yeah, this is like my studio with my studio mates, maybe somewhere in the beginning of a year, because it looks far too clean compared to how it looked in the end. Yeah, so like, but there was a thing with that a month before I came to Royal College, I got in a very serious car accident. Like, I was a taxi passenger, and taxi basically crashed in a like block of concrete. I don't know why they didn't see it, but whatever. So yeah, and I had a very strong, like, I had lots of things. I spent like months in the hospital, but also I had a brain bruise. And then like right away, right, I got out of hospital still with a shaved head, with a scar and stuff. I came to Royal College. And that wasn't a very good idea at all, because like I kind of couldn't find my old self. I really didn't know what to do as an artist. I was super lost. And also, being there, I mean, I wouldn't say that Royal College is the most health atmosphere in the world. And I felt I'm not fitting. And also I felt like I don't know what to do as an artist. So I was super lost and eventually take a year off. And I came back and had a year thinking about life and what should I do, and thinking about painting in particular. But another thing which happened to me in Royal College, which actually I'm telling not to complain, but to say how I think it's really interesting that through like some difficult stuff which happens to you, you get deeper in a understanding of your art and who you are. So like um, I really felt I'm not fitting there for many reasons, but in particular, I never felt myself as Russian as there. Because before, like, I traveled a lot in life, I lived in different countries, and I had somehow seen myself as like kind of cosmopolitan, so I never really got deeper in what does it mean to be Russian, where I'm from, like, what was it, like, what kind of experience was there. But there, I mean, especially after France, where I lived before, because France is very kind of Russophilic in some way. You all constantly meet people who are super interested in everything because they had this like nice, cool wave of immigration in 1917, who brought all the art and like lots of interesting stuff. And I think Russians who came to Britain were mostly oligarchs and models in the 90s. So like Britain didn't have the best like image of that. And so I felt like each time I say I'm Russian to someone, it's like if someone say I'm Italian, everyone, oh, so interesting, where from? And you're saying Russian, everyone's like, okay, move on. And so I somehow felt myself far more intensely Russian than before. And also, since I kind of felt myself weird and not fitting, I started intensively questioning what's weird about me, why it's like that, was different. That's like why I felt sort of not interestingly different. That's like you're just different, but whatever, what's wrong with you? So, and that brought me to start thinking first time in my life about where I'm actually from, what did I come from, what experience I had. Because obviously, when you live somewhere and everyone else around you also live there, you're hardly gonna think like what's so special about my upbringing, because everyone has the same upbringing. You're hardly gonna see it. But when I came to Britain, I seen that like actually my story can be really interesting, because like if you think about it, that's like was my childhood, right? So like Soviet Union crashed. I was what, 3 years old when it crashed, and then like it's basically ruins of empire. I really like this idea that like by the word ruins I mean not just like a state, it was ruins of cultural narrative, of what people were pursuing in life, how, what were the values, what was like considered good and bad, because like some people became millionaires in like a second, and some people lost everything and suicided. So it was super intense, because I think like crash of USSR normally, like collapse normally seen in an entirely positive way, but it wasn't in always positive. There were lots of difficult and sad things in early 90s, when I was child. But obviously, like you grow up like everyone around you like have the same experience. So I never thought about what does it really mean to be born like when the empire is over, when like this, because it's like if you think of it, it's like a huge thing. How like from it was basically a religion in some way, and obviously no one really, like almost no one really believed in communism and blah blah blah. But I constantly see in my head stuff which is connected to Soviet Union, like for example this idea that I must do something great, which came from my family, because I was raised on the idea that I must do something great, I must save humanity. And it never was about like money or anything. It was that like I have like a calling, but from like people of my country to, and or just people in general, to do something cool. And I think that's very much built from a Soviet kids literature, on a Soviet kids literature. And so I started thinking of it as something interesting and strange, and which I didn't do before. Mm. And then also in my year off when I came back, my grandfather died, and I discovered family archive of photographs, which I basically never discovered before. Like it was like really huge masses archive. I never really seen it. And so this archive again was nothing special. I guess everyone has similar stuff. Maybe the only thing special about my archive was that like I came from dynasty of surgeons on my father's side. So there were lots of medical things and lots of surgeons and surgeries and all these things. And but generally, like if you look on these old photographs, right, you know those people, but you don't know those people, because like you know your mom, but you don't know your mom as a like 10-year-old. You know your grandma, but you don't know your grandma as a like young kind of hot girl. And I mean, not in this picture, but there is a picture where she's really hot. Anyway. Maybe I should have taken this one. Yeah, and so like when Grand died, I spent quite a lot of time with my grandma, and like she told me stories about that, and I felt like, since as I said, like I in some way grew up with very polarizing perspective over past, because like, which is also super typical for Russia, that your grandparents gonna, well, not everyone, but my grandparents were like, oh yeah, everything was so amazing, we did science, we never cared about money, we were like having such a great time. And my parents would say, yeah, and staying in the queues for milk for 2 hours and all that, like you cannot buy anything, you cannot leave property, you have no choice. So I think it's more like what kind of, it's not that much even about time, it's more about what kind of life people had. And so she was telling me those stories, and I thought I really feel conflicting, because I have no reason not to believe her, but also I know history and know other people's stories and like of Stalin's repressions and stuff like that. It doesn't look so such a nice as nice as she say. And I felt like when you look on those photographs, you kind of feel that you want to get there and see how it was in reality, and see who were those people, how it all felt then, what was what was really going on. And initially it didn't come very quick in my brain, in my head, to use it as a base compositions for my paintings. I felt I want to do something with them, with those photographs, because I felt strange connection with them. And in a way, it's a time machine, right? You kind of have a window in these other times, but you cannot climb there, you only can see. So like vision is your only channel how you can connect to that. And I did painting for a while, right? So like I had this idea for also that, not like idea, but like painting is very tactile practice. So like in a way, when you paint on something, you have a touch connection to what you do to the surface, because like you kind of touch it in a way with a brush or with a finger or whatever. And so when I returned to Royal College after my year off, I was offered to do a work in progress show again, which was really nice from them, because I did it once already. And I was like, it was like 10 days before it, and I was, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And I decided to print some of those photographs and make paintings on them. And so I did that, and that was my first works on photographs. So they were, compared to my current scales, relatively small. But actually what I discovered, that like it was super easy. It was much easier than normally to paint, and like easy and fun, I would say. So where I would struggle, and here, like I just felt all the answers goes immediately, and that I can do all this like little kind of jokes, like the speak head, or like I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I have a I wasn't sure if I have an error. Yeah. So like, or like, kind of make fun someone's face a little bit or something. So I found like unprecedented expressivity in that, and also playfulness of this dialogue with the photograph. And I think it was very connected to this desire to climb into it, to see how it was. And so returning to like this ruins of empire idea, that since past kind of crashed, and like even when I was growing up, it also wasn't anything special because everyone had it around. But for example, in school you would have like old books of history and new books of history, and for example, even if it would be something like a medieval history of medieval Europe history, it's still going to be, oh yeah, the class struggle, the proletarians, like not proletarians, like poor peasants were fighting against bad aristocrats and stuff like that. And then they changed their books, change books to like something totally different, and like with different narratives. And yeah, so like it was obvious for us that there are like old history books and new history books, and like which you should trust. So I think this uncertainty of past, which I grew up, first of all, gave me my interest in psychology and like existentialism and stuff like that. And then on the other hand, I grew this desire to deal with past somehow, because I don't have it settled. I want to do something with it to have it more settled. And yeah, so that's how I started, and I thought it's fun. And then I found that like if I work on a bigger scale, I couldn't really print it, and I started using a projector. And so this one was a photograph which like one of my first big paintings were based. And this is my father playing with his friend, playing chess with his friend. And I really like this photograph. I think it's a beautiful composition, and just like it has a vibe of past, because who gonna play chess on the beach anymore, right? And like especially like with such a like yeah, watermelon as well. Well, I mean, and so this one was like, oops, no, not so quick. The painting based on that, and as you can see, color-wise, I still was kind of connected to reality, more or less. Sorry, I'm gonna move this a little closer. So it's still kind of, I mean, skin is more or less skin color and stuff like that. So I moved from it further, but so it was maybe a little bit more realistic back then. And also this painting had like lots of stages. I was repainting it many times. And I kind of developed this like technique that like I just try to see, I kind of move agency to the painting and see what does it want, what it wants from me, what like it asks for. And I was really into like object-oriented anthology then, and I tried to see painting also as a kind of breathing like substance which I have a relationship with, which I can bring something or remove something with it, and that like, yeah, but we kind of have a relationship. And that's like I think that this like approach stays with me still. And then this was like another photograph which I find super beautiful. That's my granddad operating on a kid, and I made 2 paintings based on it. And again, it's maybe when doing that, I really thought about that this is a way to deal with my granddad in a way, like, because who died, and so he's not here anymore, and how like dealing with those photographs, I rebuild the connection with him. And in this way that you can kind of, by doing that, by establishing this like sort of tactile contact with the photograph, you in a way interact with the past, and you interact with people who are not there anymore. And so I was really into this idea of intrusion then, that like intrusion and interaction, which is like intrusion sounds kind of more violent, and interaction maybe more like that you're like stroking them, but like in a way they both connected to like touch, that you somehow put yourself like in some relationship towards the painting, and also towards the photograph in my case, which turns into painting and then becomes like a separate entity. So color wise, I think then my colors were probably very much connected to, at least from my analysis, to my upbringing, when I was surrounded by like medical books. And even like we had this like this book called children's anatomy, and my mom and grandma used it as a way to try to feed me with something, saying like, and showing like, for example, so it's like anatomical atlas, and there is a kit where like you can see all this bit, for example, like lungs, and this, oh, you see this guy didn't eat enough cottage cheese, or like this girl didn't wear a scarf, and then it's like someone who's like, you can see the, so I kind of grew up with this like atlases and like anatomical atlases and stuff like that. And I think my color scheme maybe changed a bit, but still I always use dark red. It's like dark red is maybe my very basic color, and also this like pinkish skin tones, a skin tone like flashy colors. So I think like somehow those photographs of like, and also like surgical photographs with like open stomachs everywhere, like really influenced my color palette back then. Yeah, and this was like I was moving to bigger and bigger scale, which I never did before, or to like this big. So this, for example, is 2.5 meters, and I think I worked on it like all summer 2019. And here I slowly started moving maybe to more abstract color, not that much connected to their. Yeah, one day, yeah, it's not seen here because it's like, but this is actually a figure which is dark green, and yeah, so like I found it, I was like moving further and further from like photograph as it is to like concentrating more on like my relationship and my response, and can I see color as well as a response. And then like I used already quite a lot of nice photographs from my family archive, and I was getting deeper and deeper. I discovered this one, for example. This is my great grandma, being like maybe 20, and this is a photograph from 1915 or something like that. So it's one of the oldest photographs in my family archive. And I was told some stories about that, and like who are those people and so on. And I thought like when I was connecting to them, it started moving further and further, as I said, from like real colors, and like that how I feel about this photograph was my response, like can I, why, like how it looks like have me this purple vibes. So, and then like at some point I ran out of all the cool photographs from my family archive. I mean, there are still some, but for my work I need a particular photograph, in a way that it must be the one where ideally there are many people, and ideally they don't look in the camera. Like this one where everyone always looks in the camera is also okay, but that's more common, and that like doesn't represent past, I think, as much, because when it's some real situation, it's like I feel more connection to it, because like it's not just people like posing like they would pose in any time. It's exactly this moment of past which is caught by camera, maybe accidentally, maybe people didn't know. Like for example, this one was accidental. No one was posing there, no one was looking in camera. So I started slowly moving to found photographs. So I started buying photographs in the flea markets. I know. Yeah, and I think the connection I have with those flea market photographs are a bit different, because then like I don't have my relatives to connect with there, and it has nothing to do with me. It can be even from different country. Like on those slides, it's actually both of those photographs are from France. And also, if you think about it, right, it's an important moment of someone's life, like people getting married in one of those, right? So it's obviously something important happening in a life of someone who is gone, and it's just like sold in a flea market for like whatever, like 50 cents. And I kind of always felt a bit sad for that like this is this lost past, this like lost history. And also I always was like very suspicious though it's like official history, because also like growing up in Soviet Union, where like there was a, not growing, but being born in Soviet Union, obviously knew that there was like official history, mostly filled by some wild male names, where they were like both of my like really heroic great grandmas who managed to survive and through really really hard times, through like revolution and war and another war and like all that. And then this history is not anywhere, so the history of those people are also not anywhere, just like, you know, weirdos like me in flea markets buy it for like coins. And I started using that, and I discovered that like in a way I'm a little bit more wild when I paint on photographs of unknown people, because maybe I care less about them. because I don't know them. I still do. I still build some kind of connection. And also I probably fictionalize more because I don't know them. I can like imagine whatever. Um, and in this one in particular, it was based on a very like little photograph of a little village party in Soviet Union, I think in 50s, so maybe even earlier. And it's very, very, the space of the painting here is very filled. And I was, again, being really into object-oriented anthology, then I wanted to oppose it to like a romanticism and anthropocentric, like anthropocentric romanticism, where, right, for example, if you take like literature of 19th century, they're normally like some guy in the middle of a plot, and then like the whole world who is like not understanding his like high hopes or whatever, like and then you always oppose this character towards the surrounding, while I always wanted, and that's the reason why I almost never paint from photographs with just one person. I want to merge everything together because it's all a moment of past. It kind of doesn't matter. Is it like someone's feet or like accordion or someone's face? It's like they're all not existing anymore. They're all captured then, and they're all here for my like for my painting practice in the like in the photo in a like when I bring them to canvas, they become like kind of this mass, and I wanted to keep it as mass, and that if I stay in this position that I try to intrude the space of a photograph, then it's not like I should intrude everywhere, and it always looks more kind of nice when you have more like open spaces where nothing is happening. But I felt then it wouldn't be very honest towards my practice to do that, because like if I'm intruding in the space, if I'm intruding like a moment of past, I must be intruding like everywhere from every side at the same time. And like also I think like when I started working from old photo from like found photographs, I think my characters became a little bit more monstrous in some way. So like yeah, maybe because I cared sort of less about them as a humans and cared more about this like moment I can deal with. And yeah, so got like more spooky vibes, I would say. Then, like as I said, I normally use a projection. So I transfer photograph on canvas through projection, which is not always ideal. I think I would maybe prefer to be more exact, like less kind of human made, because I transfer with watercolor, so it's like it's already sort of a painting when I transfer photograph. And then I try it without. So this work was special for me because here there was no projection, and I tried with the same kind of expressivity and stuff. I tried to make work just like looking at a photograph but not transferring them, and I actually found it less fun. Even if I had lots of fun with this particular painting, I think I didn't have as intense connection with the photograph here like on the other one. So, and I wanted to speak a little bit about like painting. Painting as it is, what it can be. Maybe I could, yeah. Sorry, Adobe app again. So, for me, when I try to tell for myself, like tell someone like when I teach something what is painting, I would say that it's a performative fraction of bodily interaction with the surface through gesture and color. And I think that this like vision sort of removes us from seeing painting as a product, as something done for someone, because I think it's not as important. The most important part of painting is like performative side of bodily interaction, because like we can interact with canvas in so many ways. Like someone would do like pointillism, someone would do like photorealism or something, and all that would be a particular type of touch. So in a way, something would be like that, something would be like that, something mine would be probably like this. So and this all very tactile and very bodily in a way. And I think that's like when we look on painting, we also sort of see it to a large extent, maybe not even consciously, but that like this is particular touch here. It is done in this way or that way. And then I like to think of painting as a membrane between a artist and a viewer, if we include viewer, that like I kind of bring my touch towards, like, if you think of transparent membrane of my kind of own self on my side, and then viewer can see it on the other side, and like we sort of communicate through it. And I think it's very exciting that you can communicate like on your side of membrane once, and then like you don't have to be present, like your act of communication is like frozen there. And when people see your painting, they also like you do your kind of movements and also like with hands or eye, and then also do like eye movements there. So like in a way this interaction can be seen more as a dance. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like massively influenced by Merleau-Ponty, this idea, but I think it's very important for me minding that my practice is very much about this bodily thing, this like tactile interaction with the surface and through it with the viewer. And also like this mightiness of power which I put there, I think is maybe more specific to my practice. I don't want to generalize it to everyone, but I always felt it's like, since I always like felt repressed by existential situation, but also there's so many other things which repress, right? We never can really fully get all we could, like not like even what we want, but like we always have like some kind of restrictions. And like I thought that like one of the important restrictions which I came through in my like most of my life, that I was like pretty often in love with someone unrequitedly, and then like this is like right when you really desperately want something and you cannot get it, in a way feels you like that you have no power to change that. And same with politics, right? Like especially like when the war started and stuff, that's like I felt that like something is happening in my name in some way and no one asked me. And all those things, like, I mean, obviously it's very subjective. You can say that you have all the like power and mightiness and like opportunities in the world. You can say that we are so restricted, blah blah blah. It's like optimism, pessimism, probably. But I think that quite a big appeal in painting for me is like, in painting I feel that this is my little world where I decide everything. And even if I decide something wrong, even if I do something stupid and like not what I planned, even if I like fail, it's still like this is a place where I'm like a demiurge, I'm a god who, like, to some extent, right, in this like obviously like obvious limitations of painting, that this is my world. And I always thought that like this is like helping me enjoy painting so much through all those years, especially through years when like it wasn't very welcome anywhere, like 10 years ago. And then my painting wasn't as great, that's why as well it wasn't welcome anywhere. But like I always found it super cool, this like feeling of power I have. And then like also my response towards existing image and the dialogue is very interesting for me, and very important that like photograph is always present and those people are present, but yeah, I'm also present, so we somehow share space with them. And yeah, I think like my painting is massively fueled by photograph, and it wouldn't be like that without. So this work was my, come on, what happened? This work was my graduation work in Royal College. It's also pretty big. And that's counterintuitively, it's not my family photograph, it's a surgery photograph I found. And I think here I kind of left more presence of a photograph than usual. And then contrary, like on this one, for example, they're almost, yeah, it's actually not this well seen.
Sorry, Katya, that previous one is in the collection of the Royal College.
Yeah, it is.
Which she fails to mention completely. The Royal College bought that previous but it's spectacular, it is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's actually, we had a problematic year being in a like Royal College during COVID times, so I honestly in some way had a mixed feelings about that. But anyway, at some point I thought, okay, you're gonna give me some money back, okay, thanks for that. But like, yeah, I can put it anywhere. Yeah, my work is like in a collection of Royal College. No one knows how shit Royal College was in the end, right, in the COVID times. But anyway, no, like I don't say that it was shit overall. It was like the teachers were great, and like I think it really helped me massively, especially that I went through all this like difficult experience and seeing myself from outside. It really was like a game changer for me, Royal College. But like during COVID, UK institutions mostly didn't behave very nice, and Royal College was far from exclusion. But anyway, so yeah, but yeah, they did. So still gonna be proud of it. Yeah, and like in this work, for example, it's again like it's this like a huge mess, and like I went as far from figures that like people not necessarily see figures there even. And it's actually super strange for me. There are some works of mine which are so like intense, there's so much going on that like people think it's abstract. And oh, come on, look, there is a dog here. And they're, what? Okay. But yeah, so like this one was maybe more on the path of this like super abstracted image. And yeah, this one was my favorite at some point. Maybe not this much anymore, but I still like it a lot for I spent half a year on this painting, and this is the longest I ever spent. And it actually maybe doesn't look this way, but there are shit tons of layers there. And also, like this red spot here was a actually sign of like I cannot do it anymore. I'm gonna paint it over. It's like horrible. Nothing works. And then I kept it because I thought it kind of works, and in some strange way of bringing this intensity of this like just bit of blood color in the middle, which kind of could be considered kitsch, but yeah, I thought like I really came through something with this painting. And it's also interesting that like what people like and what I like, I obviously like more the ones I suffered the most, and people normally like the ones where like I should like, oh okay, done. So also this, just see that I'm probably, yeah, still okay, still almost half an hour left. Anyway, but so this photograph, actually maybe should have shown it because it's interesting. This photograph, this work is based, was quite interesting on its own. It was set in Crimea and Sevastopol, and my grandma and my mom, my family is basically, my mom's family is from Crimea, but from Simferopol, from the center. And so Sevastopol was always considered very like Navy place, and even through the time like until like Russia annexed Crimea, Sevastopol was considered Russian because of this like war military base there. And so that was a photograph from I think late 70s, and there were like those like really fun looking like young Navy sailors, soldiers, whatever, I probably sailors, and they felt like really enjoying themselves sitting on the sun and like having a chat and so on. But then like, and also they see the sea and everything, but you know that if you think of them, they're like in a way you're gonna be like a war machines. And in a way, especially that was like obviously like Crimea issue was very big for me in many ways. My grandma actually lived there and supported it, and my mom didn't, and there was a huge family, I mean supported annexion, there was a huge family clash because of that, because my grandma was like, that's our choice, we decided we want to be in Russia, like you all fuck off. And my mom was like, yeah, but I mean that's illegal, that's not right, it's like a territory of Ukraine. Like, so there was a huge clash in my family, and like I'm on my mother's side just in case, but that was like painful thing for everyone in some way. And so like thinking of those like Navy sailors being there, how I gonna connect with them, right? I see them as a young, kind of fun, having good time guys, but also I see them as a future source of like of connection, future like people who would be on a war, who would be like killing someone and so on. And then like I had this work as well, which is far more recent. These are also some kind of soldiers or like military people. And again, there was a thing that like I connect with them as people, but also I'm very much of a pacifist. So like I mean, we cannot do anything about existence of army, right? But like I never was sympathetic in any way to anything military. And then like you see people there, you see like people who just live this life and maybe think it's okay and even like decent thing to do. So I found those photographs where there is a complex, who provokes complex feelings like this one because of this whole military thing. Working with them interesting because like I think I put the complexity of feelings here, and this work actually is like 2022 after the war started. Since right after the war started, I didn't do anything for maybe 4 months, and then I had a residency which was pre-set. And residency, I needed to do something, so I was like, oh, whatever, okay, I'm gonna return to my practice back. But I was really struggling with that because like after war started, nothing felt like making any sense. And I think like in this painting there is this emotion of this despair of like how like most like how like me and my friends would be feeling in the beginning of a war, because we kind of felt that the world is over so many ways. Yeah, um so yeah, like I had some more works connected to like army and military, but yeah, I think I maybe gonna, because I also have separate projects, and maybe I'm gonna move to them slowly. uh yeah, I also wanted to talk about a little bit about my method. Yeah, just like maybe need to cover the previous one. That yeah, so how I paint and how it's all set in my practice, because I think how exactly it all works, how my studio is organized, was like developing through years quite a lot. This is my kind of general base, right? Like where like my sort of comfort zone to take just like an old photograph and make a painting out of it. But there were several situations when I moved somewhere from it. Normally it was in residences, which I actually really like. When you come to the residency, like I used to go to quite a lot, and they had some particular desire for a project or some particular theme. And so I've been to this residence in Montenegro 2020. Actually, I've been there recently again. I love this place. I was asked to do something related to Montenegro. And the most obvious would be obviously go look for like local photographs, blah, blah, blah. But I actually discovered that there was this like the first female St. Petersburg photographer, like then Empire Capital photographers, so who were taking photographs of all the like kind of theater stars and like all the well-known people and so on. She was actually Montenegrin, and she was very well known and very kind of connected to local scene and so on. And in particular, she had lots of works featuring like this work, like the first one, this one, it's based on a photograph where it's actually an advertisement. So they are not real family. They are playing, that's a dollhouse of Ibsen play. So that's like Nora with the kids. And so it's staged, but it's like kind of in a way realistic, but then some things are not that realistic. And I found it interesting, this like stage thing, because in a way like how my practice is built is also I'm sort of like staging something, that like I have this like photograph and pretend it's actual moment of past, because like which I can see there, but obviously it's just a flat piece of paper if you think. So I thought it's like there is some kind of theatricality. And also someone once said that like those drapes, like you do them, drapes are supposed to be accidental, and you do them by purpose. And I really do them by purpose pretty often. I like drapes as they give this like they give depth. If you have like several layers of drips, it looks like you can go through it. So I do that by purpose, but indeed drips supposed to be like when paint didn't behave as you wanted. So in a way it's like staged, staged mistake. And so I did those 3 works there. So the second one was based on actually a famous house chemist. Yeah, Mendeleev was going to expedition to Siberia, and they also posed in the same photo atelier of Mrazovskaya. This was this photographer. And then there was this one. Actually, this took me ages. I remade it so many times. It's like just as like theater people, like all posing in different costumes, and they were so much posing. Like you can see their actors. They're really like and also it was a time when I guess theater was like far more like about overacting than now. And so I really had troubles with that. And then, yeah, eventually I think it has this kind of weird spotlight filling this painting in the middle. Yeah. And then, like, I had another relatively separate project, this one, which is 2021 in a Sphere Fund in Moscow. There was a request more from other. We've been two people in residency together. She wanted to do something about Hamlet, and I was like, well, it's not very much connected, but let's try. And then I started researching what was with Hamlet, especially in Britain, British theatre, and I started reading about the most famous performances, like with John Gielgud and with Sarah Bernard, and the film with Laurence Olivier as well. And there was also a theater with him as well, theater piece. And I thought it's like also really interesting if you think about Hamlet, that like that's like someone, a character everyone knows, and he'd been there for last like whatever 500 whatever years, but he changes. So like, and as like King Lear or like Macbeth, they're gonna be seen differently in different times. So I think like Lady Macbeth surely seen much differently now than she was seen then. And like maybe now she can be a bit of a rebel or something. Yeah, so I thought that I decided I'm gonna make works based on those like scenes from a theater. And there were four, but I have three here. It's actually, I think in all of those residences I have four paintings, but only three I like. So there was like one kind of weirdo. Maybe I should make one exhibition. Once I should make an exhibition of all those like ones I didn't like eventually. So, and yeah, I thought again this theatricality is like interesting, that like everything is staged, and what I'm connected to here. And I think like I got really into Hamlet then and started reading a lot about him as a character. You know, like tons of philosophers wrote about him as like about his character. And there was this thing that which we discussed a lot with my co-resident there, that like in a way he got this like message right from a spirit, but to check if the spirit was right, he did a stage performance where he invited his uncle and his mother to see, hello, to see how they're going to behave. And that was like a play inside the play. And so why he didn't believe the spirit initially. So like we just like been thinking about that and talking about that a lot with my co-resident, and about this character at all, and how differently we can see him through different times. And I was thinking like in these times when those plays were staged, how he would be seen then, like what people would see the most strange or the most interesting. And so I made, I'm gonna show those three works. And I think they are visually quite different from what I do normally. Maybe because the topic was different. And here I was really thinking about character, and normally I don't as much. And I think my connection to that wasn't as much through connection with the past, but maybe through connection with the character, which I sort of established in connection with the story. Because I think I got obsessed. I think I watched like all like the recordings of all like theater pieces of Hamlet I could find on YouTube. And I also been to quite a lot in Russia before. Actually never been in Britain, I think. But I should. Yeah, so like I think this obsession like made me enabled me to build a connection in with like those photographs where I probably wouldn't expect it as much. And then speaking, that's probably going to be out of separate project, that would be the last. That was a project I did in 2022 in a residency in Barbican Art Group Trust. That was really weird space, to be honest. It was like kind of real white cube without windows or anything. And like being there in the residency was really strange, because it's like there was no ventilation and no natural light. So I felt myself a little bit like in a dungeon, even it was super light. And so it was again, like as I said, after war started, I was really struggling how I can, first of all, how am I going to respond? Can I respond to that as an artist? Because like after it started, I was volunteering entirely for 4 months, and I didn't do any art, and art felt senseless, and like everything technically was senseless. But I think I lost all my interest in like art and philosophy and stuff. I was just I only like was interested in the war for at least half a year. And then like I was again thinking how I could connect it to my practice, how I could deal with it. And like as I said, I started doing those paintings connected to like military topics, but it didn't feel fulfilling. And then so I went to this residency, and again like comfort zone, right? Okay, I'm gonna work with photographs. And then I found a new, like my granddad's brother found a new pile of photographs, and he sent them to me. So I had like new material and wanted to use it. And then so I started basically painting works based on my grandma's lives, my both of my grandmas. And then at some point I was like, listen, why now I do with my grandmas, why now I do something with my grandmas. And I realized that actually I have a huge problem with my grandmas exactly this moment, because sadly both of my grandmas support the war from Russian side. And weirdly, both of my grandmas are half Ukrainian, like, and speak Ukrainian and so on. And like one live in Crimea still, one is from Donetsk, which is still Eastern Ukraine, but they were like my other grandma knows like lots of poems in Ukrainian and stuff like that. And they were obviously like victims like of propaganda, like every, like most of other people grandmas. But it was such a weird mixture if you think of what you hear, like if you stay on different sides of a conflict like that, that like that on one hand it's still your grandma, they're gonna say you know, like eat more kiwis, I heard they have more like calcium than like whatever, you should eat 3 kiwis per day, don't forget, and all this type of very grandma stuff. And then on the other hand, like, oh yeah, of course Ukraine should be denazified, blah blah blah, they are fascists there. And I'm like, fuck. And you just like, you're still in the same relationship, but then you hear something, especially volunteering, because I was very involved. And I have like you know, I once like have call from some Ukrainian, I helped a lot to refugees, and then like they often like called me and asked for something, can you help me booking ticket? And then like on one hand I talked to some like someone else grandma who like tried to move to Germany from Poland, and she needs a ticket to a train, and I need to find out how to do that. And then my own grandma, who is like exactly the same, like age-wise and maybe look similar or something, had similar life story, who gonna say that, oh yeah, they're all fascist. It was such a weird thing. And so I thought that like while working necessarily on my grandma's lives, I could like kind of think how it happened that they believe all that, how it happens that like we happened on a different side of like of the war, and they don't support what I'm doing, and I super not support what they're saying. And so I made this exhibition so that there were like paintings, and between paintings there were like little phrases from real dialogues with my grandmas, where they were like sometimes when they would be saying, oh, you know, you're already 30 whatever, like you should be married already, I already had a 12-year-old kid, all this stuff. And then at the same time like childhood stuff, when they would be like, what's your favorite toy, kind of something. And then like kind of Ukraine should be denazified kind of phrases, that you kind of get it all together. And then I worked on their photographs, and then I tried to build stronger connection with the photograph. I didn't use a projection. I used so here this is like acrylic transfer, which is really complex process, like just takes ages. And so I made this transfer of actual photograph and then painted it over. And here, this is a huge cyanotype. So I printed a photograph in inversion in transparent tracing paper, and then put it over and under the sun. So I got this like bluish kind of image, but because of scale and because of wind, it's very hard to do it like perfectly. So it was very far from perfect. Some parts of it like got merged, but I kind of left I left like a face of my grandmother as it is. And then like I also did some other, which is not this much of cyanotype, it's like a projection, but still also the life of my grandma. And yeah, so like I think this project overall was like a way for me to deal with the thing. And it was interesting that many people who came, they could, being not Russian, being not related to war, they kind of got connected to that in a way that they say, yeah, you know, like my grandma is like homophobe, or my grandma is racist, and it's also like I kind of have the same problem. But I think like I mean, my grandmas are also homophobes, but I guess when it came to war, it just became so dramatic because I was so involved that it just was like super bad.
You say that the title of the show is going
Ah,
to
yeah,
join the Reich. And I was
yeah.
wondering, this was the Reich?
I meant like I kind of referred to
Yeah.
Reich as a Third Reich
Yeah.
because like they kind of basically, well, if you can use the word fascist, that's the abuse.
Because Ukraine is fascist. So they were,
Yeah. But I mean, they were just following what, like, first in Crimea it's very specific because in Crimea, like, people who, but my grandma in Crimea was very involved, and like in annexion there were also like protests of people who came out like saying that yeah, we want to be with Russia, blah blah blah, because like we wanted or not, but there were like lots of Russian population who wasn't very happy during I mean, Russian Ukrainian, it's always hard to say, like half people are like half or something like that, so it's not like this is one nation, this is another land. Especially in Crimea, I think everyone was merged. And so like for her, I think it was kind of obvious in some way that she stayed on this way because they seen that like, oh, we got like, we wanted to become Russia, we became Russia, like, well done us. And you know, it's not particularly you who did it, but anyway, so like there was kind of connected. So I probably gonna skip. I thought so. Like just gonna show maybe this one. After I tried cyanotype on canvas, I also started trying a one-day transfer, which is similar to cyanotype but brown, and it's actually super complex and takes ages. We actually done this one with Ira because I couldn't do it myself, and that was like a work, like a workout. So, but it didn't. I did some works based on that when I tried to keep bits of photographs free, and I didn't get to deep in it. I still think with somehow when I transfer with projection, I maybe get less of response, but then like I somehow have maybe more control, and then like I always feel like painting everything over. But then like if you paint everything over, what's the point to to struggle so much to do this like super complex transfer? Yeah, and then like sometimes I do stuff not from photographs, I mean, or from not from photographs from the past, from fountain, blah blah blah. Like I did a residency this year where I actually made free paintings based on my daily life. So like yeah, it's not the best photograph. This cat is actually purple, but so that's my husband like sleeping, or like cats involved, or just like very much of a daily life scenes. And I found that it's interesting that I'm treating those surfaces much differently. I kind of don't paint everything over, maybe because I maybe care more or something. So it was an interesting experience to try that. And again, I don't think I gonna necessarily continue with that, but what I discovered that for me, maybe in painting practice as it is, I don't necessarily have to work with the photographs, even if photographs was like my main thing and so on. Sometimes it can move elsewhere. And then this was like my biggest yeah, I had one more of, just to show that like how it looked together. I had one more of those like house scenes. My husband didn't like it this much, but anyway. So this work was based on Rubens' Perseus and Andromeda painting, and this is huge. This is like 3 meters. That's the biggest one I ever done. And also, I think like the way I treated surface was a bit different when it came to Rubens. I'm a big fan of Rubens. Yeah, and so the last thing I'm going to show would be my very latest works, which I did before coming here. When I got wilder with color. I think actually I got wilder with color through this project when I was painting my husband, because like somehow I started using far wider palette. And then like this one probably was my most successful painting of this year. It's like old photograph, nothing special, like maybe from 30s, but it was very evil one, I would say. Like especially like this guy looked super evil. And I had a very complex kind of feeling from it. So yeah. And then those ones I did in my residence in Montenegro, and yeah, they were this struggle. I got there like between two of those works, so they were different. They had done exactly the same time, and maybe this one was more under influence of people constantly passing by and say, "Oh, it was better before," and I was like, "Oh, fuck you," because like in in this residency, it was a very strange experience because we were like 24/7 with one person in the same space. So we ate together, we like slept in a room next to each other, like we had the same studio, we would go to like to the market to buy stuff together. There was like one person first week and a half, and then someone else for the last 3 weeks. And like both of them, I mean, especially like the person who there like later on, we constantly, he was like, sometimes, yeah, you know, why did you feel it so much? Maybe give some space for a viewer to breathe, and like, oh, I don't care about you. But anyway, so this one was my kind of protest work against that, because here every single centimeter is filled with my intense presence. While here I actually indeed kept a space for a viewer to chill. And in this contrast, I actually came to understanding that I personally is probably more manifested when I feel everything, but sometimes I can allow like space, even if conceptually I think this work is far more like working with who I am and what kind of person I am, because like I'm kind of really intensively trying to be present everywhere, and it's so much that I'm even trying to be present in the past. So like she even cannot be okay with being everywhere in the present, she also needs to feel past and future and everywhere. So like I think that's some kind of essence of me. And so in a way, how this work is done is like celebrating that, while this work is maybe celebrating my other side, and so trying to embrace that both. And yeah, oh, that's my last slide finally. Thank you so much. Sorry for it being so long. Yeah, that was maybe my kind of color direction I'm going through now at the moment, to be to collect more like kitsch color and try to deal with it, and I found it super pleasant. And further I go in a very bright color, more enjoy it. So I guess I'm gonna cover up. I'm sorry if someone frozen to death. Hopefully no one did. So shall we?
Let's say thank you to
Yeah.
Katya.
Oh, thank you so much.